Hello and welcome back to the Gaago, the analysis show. Joining me this week is Michael Meehan from Galway. Michael, how are you doing?
Good, Dean. How's things?
All's good now. Spirits must be high up in Galway at the moment.
Yeah, absolutely. A couple of good championship outings. Mayo, the 1 point victory at the death, and a reasonably good performance against Derry at the weekend. A fancy Derry. So 2 big games at home, and 2 good wins. So there's a bit of a feel-good factor back around the place again, which is good.
Yeah, and look, I suppose the All-Ireland series kicked off last weekend. I suppose much of the debate and conversation since then has been around this Derry and Galway game for maybe good and bad reasons. But look, I think we're going to highlight, predominantly focus maybe on Derry and some of the inefficiencies that they kind of displayed, and maybe that rustiness of not having played a game for 5 weeks was quite evident in their performance. And to be honest, it started quite well for them. They got off to a good start. They were 2-0 up, defending quite well, attacking well, and then it just seemed to unravel a little bit as the half went on. But look, what Derry have been renowned for over the last couple of years is their ability to attack at pace from deep. Conor McCluskey is one of their key guys in this regard. They love attacking the wings. They like having a little bit of depth inside, and they love having hard angle cuts from the sidelines. And that's all evident here in this play. Ethan Doherty is a massive link man for them. Pops the ball into Conor Glass, who found himself a full forward loss in this game. And Bradley comes off the angle cut, and Conor McCluskey potentially on for a palm goal. But they started the game really, really well and seemed to be, imposing their game plan on Galway. But for whatever reason or not, it just seemed to unravel, and maybe Galway just got to grips with what they were trying to do.
Yeah, they did. It was just sitting watching it live, definitely initially, and the conditions were quite good in Galway. A little bit of a wind, but nothing like maybe we're used to or what it has, what it's known for. But they were into the elements. But you're like you said there was times when they looked like the Derry that we've seen over the last couple of seasons, and that there on another day we so often we see Derry finishing that into the back of the net, and all it needed was that little slip pass, and McCluskey had it. So it was a bit of a let off for Galway again at a very early point, and things were going well. It was tit for tat, but they were turning Galway over. They were taking the ball back up the field, and they were taking their score. So I'm sure very early days they were confident enough with how things had gone.
Yeah, looking back on the Donegal game, I know much of the focus was on the Derry kick-out and how Donegal got great joy off of that. But a point that was maybe kind of missed in the analysis side was the fact that they had actually dropped 7 short in that game against Donegal, which obviously wouldn't have been up to their standards. But what you think they would have been working on over the last number of weeks in terms of their scoring, it just didn't seem to manifest into what they were trying to do on the pitch. And they end up kicking 7 short in the first half alone against Galway. I know you've already mentioned that it is a tough place to kick. The wind can be quite deceiving, but to kick 7 short, it just gives the opposition the oxygen. It gives them the ball back. And it's very, very hard to defend in those situations when you have poor shots at goal, it drops short, you're just on the back foot straight away. So it's certainly something that Derry are going to have to be conscious of going forward, because if they keep kicking like that, they're not going to win too many games. And this is another example here of just poor execution. It's not a shot this time, but Conor Glass finds himself in the full forward line one-on-one. It's probably not a bad option, but once he's in there, that ball has got to stick. It has to stick. If it doesn't, this is what happens. And in fairness to Conor Gleeson, he's quick to the tee all day. He got them off short. And when they were on long, like it is in this example, he went long and they punished Derry. See, Conor Glass, he was in full forward. He's totally out of position here now. That ball has after gone over 10, 11 Derry players, and Galway are on the front foot. McTierney, great catch. Everything going forward. All Galway players going forward in their droves. The ball comes to Comer. They get a free in, and the rest is history, what happens after that. But it just highlights when you don't execute your fundamental skills, as well as you possibly can. In that example, that ball has to stick into Conor Glass's hand. They need to get a score or a free or something. Whereas what's happened, they leave themselves just very, very vulnerable and put themselves in a very difficult position after that.
And you know yourself, Dean, like 7 wides is terrible, but it's better than 7 drop shorts because they get a chance to bring up Oren Lynch and set up for kickouts, whatever they might be doing at that particular time. But when it drops short and there's just a quick counter straight away, it's killer. It's so demoralizing for the team, and I didn't know that they had 7 short in the Donegal game as well. So I can only imagine like what the management were saying coming into the Galway game alone on the back of that 7, and then what they're going to be saying coming into their next game against Armagh. Like, and it's just all of a sudden it becomes a little bit of a thing in the back of their head that they now need to shake and undo. But credit to Galway, they probably learned a little bit from Sean Patton and the Donegal kick-out strategy, long and fast. And in the last example that you gave there, where you take Conor Glass out of it, and just, Matthew Tierney, who we'll talk about later, he had a super game for Galway, just fast moving of the ball, there were quick hands, and you set up a scoring chance for yourself straight away at the far end. And the foul on Damien and what followed afterwards and everything, what was a huge turning point in the game.
Yeah, and then look, naturally enough, you expect some sort of response from Derry in terms of after the red card, and maybe things might change. And look, their attack didn't have to change too much, because the way they attack, whether it's 14 or 15, it doesn't really matter. And the fact that they have Lynch there to come out from goal doesn't make too much of a difference. But the trend continued in terms of the poor option taken, in terms of the drop shorts. I think of the next 5 attacks after the sending off, they had 3 drop shorts and 2 scores. Again, it's a shot from McFall straight after the red card. It's not really on. It's a time for a bit of calmness, a bit of composure. This is one where they did actually work it, their second attack after the red card, get the ball to the right man and Doherty and get a score. This is one where just Cassidy gets the ball. You'd expect them to put it over the bar, just a little bit more too relaxed. And again, they're straight away on the back foot. This one again, Bradley gets the ball, drops short. It's just, they're just compounding themselves with errors. And like the game was there for the take. And even though they only had 14 men, there were still opportunities there for them. But it was just time and time again, they just kept kicking the ball into keeper's hands and just having unforced errors. And this is the only time they got the ball into Shane McGuigan's hands in the first half, from a scoring position. And just look at that for a score. Absolutely phenomenal.
Unbelievable.
But they just didn't find them enough. And particularly when they're struggling for scores and they're dropping the ball short into keeper's hands. I'm not saying that them guys who shot aren't able to get the ball over the bar, because they've proven that they absolutely can. But in those clutch moments when you're down a man, every score is so precious. Every attack is so precious. You have to get the ball to the man in the best position, or to the best guys who can shoot. And their best shooter is Shane McGuigan. And he needs to be on the ball and taking more than one shot in the first half if they're going to be successful.
Correct. And I think, some credit goes to Galway there and Johnny McGrath, and the cover from, I think it was Dylan McHugh and John Daly in particular, who were sitting in front. Everyone knows that McGuigan is the man to mind there in particular. Like, he's a serious boot on him left or right. So they did quite a good job at narrowing that option down on Derry, but that doesn't excuse, like you said, some of those drop shorts. They'll be kicking themselves. They weren't too far outside the 21, a little bit left, a little bit right at the D, but just too casual, and real sucker punches, especially after the red card. When, as you said, they came back, they had their fair share of possession, they had the ball. They just weren't getting the scores that they needed to get to give themselves a breather.
Yeah, and look, even if 4 or 5 of those 7 go dead or over the bar, like, it gives you an opportunity to, as you said, press the kick out, maybe get the ball back. Whereas if you kick the ball straight back to the keeper's hands, there's absolutely no chance of getting the ball back. Particularly then when they were man down, they just decided to retreat back to their own 45. So they were giving up ground, they were wasting a lot of energy. And eventually that took its toll, and Galway ran out winners towards the end. But this is just one example here where they actually do pretty well to get it out of the corner and switch it to the far side to work an opportunity for a really good shot. But we've seen this one already, it drops short. But it's more just the response from the Derry players, or the lack of. So you can just see all heads are down.
Yeah.
Body language is really, really poor. and that you caveat this to the Galway players, they all come alive. They're moving the ball with intent. They're all running forward. All Derry's players have their back to the ball. And it's very easy for Galway to transition here. They have to do very, very little with the ball to get one of their key shooters on the ball for a score infinity. So it's just, again, look, Derry, they've got back in numbers, all well and good, but they never once lay a glove on any one of the Galway's players. Which ultimately, when you drop the ball short, you've got to get a bit of pressure on early doors.
No pressure at all. And what's more telling is all the Derry players are facing and running towards their goal as Galway are attacking. So Rob Finnerty is in the dream situation there. He's coming on the loop. There's no one coming into his space, and he's well inside his scoring range with a gentle breeze behind his back. So he's going to score that all day long. So it's just that retreat, from the very beginning of that clip. And we mentioned this earlier before we hit record that Derry probably had enough players up there to put a bit of a press on, but being down a man and being running the system they were running at the time, they just retreat. But there wasn't a glove laid on Galway all the way up the pitch, and it was a key score. Like, it's a great score, but like you said, it's a cheap score really for Derry to give away.
Yeah, and look, and absolutely, again, we probably were focusing a lot on Derry, but obviously a lot of credit goes to Galway. They took advantage of those opportunities that they did get. John Daly got up in the first half as well. A very similar one where the ball dropped short and they went up and got a score outside the left boot, and he got one in the second half as well. So they did, in fairness to Galway, they managed the game quite well. They probably forced Derry to take shots under a bit of pressure and from distances that maybe weren't exactly on, where I just would have felt that Derry would have had be a little bit more tactically astute and be a little bit smarter in terms of, okay, we are a man down here. We got to be very, very careful in terms of where our shooting zone is to ensure that the ball goes dead, because we don't want to play a game of tennis back and forth here with a man less. So that was probably the most disappointing thing from their perspective, is that they just didn't seem to manage the game as well, and didn't manage it as Division 1 champions, essentially.
Yeah, and it's only maybe less than 3 months since Derry were down in Pearse Stadium at the league game, and I was there, and conditions were far trickier. Wind going in the same direction, right? But Derry, I think it was in the first half of that game, playing as they did the same direction on Saturday evening, and like, I remember Conor Glass driving one over. Like, you'd say he shouldn't take it on because it was into such a strong wind, but just the conviction and the shots and the scores that they took, and just fast forward maybe 9-10 weeks, and it just wasn't there to the same level. So they'll be bitterly disappointed, Derry. Galway, like you said, I think they did control it and manage it and play it on their terms as much as they possibly thought they would coming into the match. And I know the red card then obviously helped them in that situation, but it was very much in the second half, Galway were able to kind of just hold the ball. And even at times, Galway probably could have let Derry come on to them a little bit more. Like, Galway had the possession, they had the cushion on the scoreboard, and maybe at times they took the ball into Derry a little bit too much into the corners, when they just could have, it wouldn't have been to anyone's liking watching the game, but they could have drawn Derry out a little bit more and said, hey guys, you have to come and take the ball off us here. There was a couple of moments like that in the second half where Galway weren't patient enough, and that gave opportunities to Derry to kind of claw back into the game. Now, in the end, it didn't make a difference, but there could be learnings there for Galway going forward.
Yeah, look, and I suppose there's certainly signs of a lot of Galway's players coming into good form. They're starting to get their best team on the pitch, which is the most important thing for Galway football. It probably hasn't happened consistently enough over the last number of years, but it seems now like they're starting to get these players back playing together. So there's a bit of continuity there. There's a bit of understanding there. And the more that the Galway players can get that together, it gives them the best chance. And look, you've obviously identified a couple of players in the game who had big performances and standout performances. And this was a big game for their season in terms of shaping them up where they want to get to, and getting straight into the quarterfinals, as opposed to having a game like they did last year against Mayo.
Absolutely, yeah. And I'd say that I'd reference it that there's a number of players that we could have picked out here, but Paul Conroy is the one we've pulled a few scores together on, and you know, he had 4 shots the last day, 2 off his left, 2 off his right. He got 3 scores. You know, super scores. It's not so long ago that I think he scored 6 or 7 from play in a league final against Roscommon, if I'm not mistaken, in Croke Park, and from play. So it's great to see him back, you know, taking on, I suppose, a responsibility to get in these positions and take the scores. And he was vital for Galway. He had a massive game. He brought real energy to Galway the last day. And, you know, and he's in the twilight years now, probably, but he really stood up when it was counted. But there was several others there. I thought it was a real team performance, you know, from lads in the full back line, Johnny McGrath, Dylan McHugh and John Daly in the half back line had really good games, and then, you know, up front, you know, Rob Finnerty was clinical. Damien was very busy until he went off early in the game, and another player, Matthew Tierney, his first full game, I think, since the second round of the league. We saw it in the Connacht final against Mayo. He came on in the second half and he was hopping off the ground. You know, he had that energy. He had missed so much play. He made an impact there. He got a full game into him on Saturday evening, and I just thought he had a massive influence on the match, catching kickouts, driving forward. Just he gets a load of work in around the middle third. So yeah, those kind of lads back together all at one time is crucial for Galway. I know there was a couple of injuries, soft tissue injuries picked up at the weekend, so that's not ideal for them. You know, no more than anyone, you always need your best players on the pitch, but they'll be very happy. Like you said, you want to try and go straight through, top your group and get out, and that would have been the key game on Derry's mind and on Galway's mind to take 2 points in the group stages early. So Galway have that in the bag for themselves. They have Westmeath coming, and I was chatting to Desi Dolan at halftime. He was up for a sneak peek, so he knows what he has lying ahead of him. But you know, Galway got a right scare up in Mullingar last year as well, so I should hope they won't take that one for granted.
So what does success look like for Galway this year, Michael? I know everyone wants to win the All-Ireland, and it's like that's what everyone is going for. That's what everyone's training for. Like, is that a realistic goal for this Galway team? They've got players back now. They are in the mix. They're certainly in the conversation. What's your own thoughts on it?
Yeah, it's a good question, I suppose. And they are back in the mix, yeah. Which I think it's reliant on keeping the key players that everyone has, but certainly the key players for Galway that have maybe missed some time already this year. Keeping them fit is vital for our chances. I'm thinking back over the league, and you know, when you had all the Walshes and the Comers and the Kellys and the Tierneys, you know, to name but a few, out injured, all of a sudden the league came about staying up, you know, for Galway. I can be sure they just had to retain Division 1 status, and then, you know, we'll get lads back. Killian McDade as well, he's coming back now as well. We'll get these lads back for championship, and it just seems to be coming true that, you know, they stayed up in the league, you know, and they got time into loads of lads, you know, who are going to build and give them a stronger panel. Killian O'Curran came on the last day. He played a lot of league football. He got a nice score for Galway, you know. So all of a sudden you have a bit of a deeper panel for Galway to call on. And like, just think, you know, so now they're into the championship, they're into the thick of it, and you know, those lads, Killian McDade got a little bit of time. He's probably going to look to get maybe, hopefully, the guts of a full game in the next round and just ramp him up that way. Matthew Tierney needs more game time. It's a soft tissue. I think Damien Comer seemed to have a nice pack on a hamstring on the sideline at the end of the game the last day. And, you know, Sean Kelly, a few lads like that were just, I think Rob Finnerty was taken off for precaution too. So if you have everyone fighting fit, which I suppose no one is going to have with the way it's coming thick and fast from here on in, but if you have everyone fighting fit, you know, Galway can be very, very competitive and can have a pop off anyone. That's what I'd feel. But it's just it's top in the group will be key to that. It caught them out last year, the last round against Armagh in the group, which will be the last round against Armagh this year again. You know, that's what caught them last year. They had to play the following week, and Mayo were ready for them. So I'm sure they'll be trying to avoid that situation, top the group, and see who they can get in the quarterfinal. Keep lads fit, and I think I saw today that Galway were looking to play their neutral game with Armagh in Croke Park. That request was made. So that signals an intent for, you know, they want games up there because that's where they want to be. That's where they want to be winning. So that's very positive for the Galway supporters down here in the west. That we want a few more good days up there again.
Yeah, well, we welcome you with open arms up in Dublin here.
I bet you will.
Yeah. But no, look, I suppose that's the route everyone wants to go. Galway put themselves in prime position to get there, and ideally they want to be in Croke Park for a quarter final. If that means playing Armagh there as a neutral venue, in preparation for that, well, then I think that would be a brilliant show from Galway and the management team. But look, it's an interesting couple of weeks ahead, and I'm sure there'll be lots of twists and turns. But I know next week we'll cover and look at the likes of Dublin and Roscommon game coming up. But until then, Michael, thanks very much for jumping on and joining us today, and the best of luck to Galway in the championship.
Yeah, cheers, Dean. I enjoyed that.
All right, spot on. Thanks, guys, for tuning in, and Noel Connors will be with you during the week for the Hurling Show. Take care.